Quick note before we get started with today's episode, I'm running my annual end of the year podcast survey, and it takes about a minute to take. Your feedback helps shape future episodes of Hawaii's Best, including topics I cover, the guests I have on, and when episodes come out. There's also a chance to win a $50 Amazon card as a thank you for your time in taking this survey. You'll find the link in the show notes below or by going to hawaiisbesttravel.com/survey. Mahalo for helping make the podcast better. If you're planning a Hawaii trip for 2026, there are some important changes going into effect soon that you need to know. The islands didn't suddenly change, but some of the rules around visiting them did. In this episode, I'm walking you through the Hawaii travel changes you actually need to know so your trip goes smoothly in the new year. Aloha and welcome to Hawaii's Best, the podcast helping you plan an unforgettable trip to Hawaii. I'm Brian Murphy, the host and owner of Hawaii's Best, and thank you so much for joining me today on today's episode. Really, the big picture before we get into the specifics is Hawaii is still Hawaii. The beaches are still beautiful. The food is still incredible. The people are amazing. The experiences and culture are still definitely worth the trip. What's changed is how Hawaii is managing visitors. And I think we've seen some of this after the COVID era as far as how Hawaii manages tourism. Over the last few years, the state has been way more intentional about tourism. That means more structure, there's more rules, and honestly, a lot more planning required on our end for visiting Hawaii. And it's really not to make travel harder, even though sometimes it feels like it, but really it's to protect the places people come here to see and for generations to come. So this episode is about helping you avoid some of these surprises that you might encounter on your next trip to Hawaii. All right, so let's go ahead and walk through some of those changes affecting your trip, probably starting with the most important, I'd say, is the cost for visiting Hawaii is going up. One of the biggest surprises for visitors in 2026 is going to be costs, and not because hotels suddenly got fancier overnight or anything like that. It's because Hawaii's lodging taxes went up, of course, and they went up kind of quietly, and they add up fast. Starting January 1st, 2026, Hawaii added a new 0.75% green fee to the state's transient accommodations tax. So that pushes the state hotel tax to 11%, up from 10.25%. What that means is when you stack in county surcharges and the general excise tax, visitors are now paying roughly 15 to 18.5% in lodging taxes. And that's before resort fees. As I'm talking, excuse my voice, I feel like I'm getting sick, but I'm going to get through this episode for you because these are important things to know. Anyway, I did an example of kind of what it looks like in real numbers. A $5,000 hotel stay in Waikiki or wherever across the islands now comes to about $825 in taxes alone. And that's before a resort fee gets added, usually a nightly destination fee, or Wi-Fi charges, parking, which is often, around, another $30 or $50 a night. So the takeaway is simple. When you're planning your Hawaii trip in 2026, always budget off the total price after taxes, not the nightly rate you see necessarily on like a booking site. The second biggest change is that you can't just show up anymore. We saw this past year and the year prior. But this is another big shift that we're seeing a trend coming in 2026 is, a lot of places in Hawaii that used to be casual stops now have systems in place, reservation systems. The places that already required reservations before 2026 still do. So you got Diamond Head, Hanauma Bay, Pearl Harbor, Ha'ena State Park on Kauai, Waianapanapa State Park on Maui, and Haleakala Sunrise. So going into 2026, here are some of the new reservations to be aware of, and some of them have fees. As of late 2025 and into 2026, 14 or more state parks and natural areas now charge non-resident parking or entry fees. Recent additions include Rainbow Falls and Boiling Pots on the Big Island of Hawaii, Kekahakai near Kona, Wailua River State Park on Kauai, Pu'u'alaka'a at Tantalus on Oahu. Usually you're going to see about $5 per person and $10 per vehicle at some of these spots. And really, that's a lot where the frustration lies, is that people assume everything is still first come, first serve, and it's free, but a lot of places just aren't anymore. So the big takeaway here is, if a place matters to you, if it's on your list that you want to visit, check ahead, go to the website, find out if it needs reservations or if it's just a fee, and just plan for that. The third big change is for vacation rentals are going to be more regulated. Hawaii didn't suddenly ban Airbnbs, but counties across the islands are tightening the rules and starting enforcing them way more aggressively. On Maui, for example, the county just passed a bill, Bill 9, and this is eventually going to phase out 6,200 short-term rentals in apartment zone areas. This uncertainty alone is causing some units to disappear from booking sites. But for a full update, because this just happened, I wrote a quick article on the website, and I'm going to link that down below in the show notes so you can read more about it. It's not as alarming as the headline sounds, so go ahead and check that out after this episode. Now, on Hawaii Island, the Big Island, all short-term rentals are now required to register with the county, and enforcement of that ramps up in 2026. So what this means for visitors is pretty simple. Some listings you see online today may not be legal for your travel dates. Here's how you're going to protect yourself if you're in this boat. Only book vacation rentals that clearly display Hawaii General Excise Tax and Transient Accommodations Tax license numbers. If a listing does not show those, that's a huge red flag. So if you want the least risk, I definitely would recommend stick to hotels, resorts, licensed condos or rentals in resort zone areas. And by the way, I actually did a full episode on this called Illegal Hawaii Vacation Rentals, What Every Traveler Needs to Know. And I'm going to link that episode below as well in the show notes. The next change is news that was huge earlier this year, and that is regards to Hawaiian Airlines. On paper, this is the Alaska-Hawaiian merger. It's not really a merger. The more have dealt with it firsthand, it is a takeover. Alaska bought Hawaiian. Hawaiian is just keeping its branding, all that stuff. In real life, what it feels like is confusion. I have felt this firsthand. I'm going to try to be as unbiased as possible. I love Hawaiian Airlines, flown Hawaiian Airlines nearly 25 years. Hawaiian Airlines didn't disappear, but it's no longer operating the way it used to. Flights now are booked through Alaska's system. Flight numbers, they look different. And the old Hawaiian Miles program has been now folded into what is called Atmos Rewards. So that's the rewards program for both Hawaiian and Alaska. I've been tripped up by this. I've seen other people trip up. Even the CEO of Hawaiian Airlines eventually addressed the frustration, especially with the Atmos Rewards transition. So the biggest thing to know is don't assume that your old perks work the same way, and don't be caught off guard when you go to book Alaska flight or Hawaiian flight that it might be a little clunky, as they're saying they're still working the kinks out come 2026. In other airline news, Southwest is changing a little bit too. Starting January 27th of 2026, Southwest is moving away from open seating and switching to assigned seating. And that's really a big shift if you're used to lining up early or grabbing seats together as a family. So before you book flights for 2026, if you're going through Southwest or Alaska, Hawaiian, whatever, just take a few extra minutes, get to know how the airlines are operating and what's changing, and I'll link some of the resources below as well. Real quick note about Maui, not a lot has changed as far as the Lahaina area. There's still a huge recovery effort happening. A lot of those areas are still closed off. It's obvious what is closed. So if you're visiting Maui, please visit Maui. I feel like every Maui local I talk to is not begging, but nearly begging, like, please still visit Maui. Maui is completely open except for some of the areas within Lahaina on the west side. So continue to support local businesses on Maui, and just understand and just be aware of those places that are still off limits. And the last thing is what made huge news this past year was the eruptions on Hawaii Island. And those eruptions aren't always predictable, but this past year, we have seen some of the most active eruptions that we've seen in a long time. But just because of that, lava viewing isn't always guaranteed. There's ongoing construction, occasional area closures. So before you go, check the National Park Service alerts for the morning of your visit. They're really good about updating what is going on their website. And I also love following them on their Instagram as well. But if Hawaii Volcanoes National Park is on your top to-do list on Hawaii Island, which it is on for a lot of people, maybe just have a backup plan if you're going to be over on that side of the island in case the park is closed, or you just never know. So just plan for the unexpected. Have a backup plan when visiting Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. So just a quick recap. Costs are higher, unfortunately, but there's a lot of free things that you can do still in Hawaii. I actually did an episode on that I'll link below, just about some ideas to do that are completely free. Reservations matter more than ever. Vacation rentals are more regulated, and airline rules and loyalty programs have changed. If all of this is kind of making your head spin, I do offer some planning resources for those of you who want some one-on-one help. I do offer consultations. So if you want to book a time with me, I'll drop that link in the show notes as well. Just everything, just go to the show notes. I always post links for everything I mention within the episode. So go ahead. If you want to book a call, I'll be honored, more than happy to sit down with you face-to-face via Zoom and discuss your trip, help plan your trip. And it's going to be great. So thanks for making it this far in the episode. And until next time, my friend, as always, live with aloha. Mahalo for listening to this episode of Hawaii's Best. To stay up to date on future episodes, hit follow on your podcast app. Hawaii's Best is a production of Shorebreak Media Group with editing by Easy Podcast Solutions and music courtesy of our friends Stick Figure.